This year, the Catholic Foundation of Manitoba's Caritas Service Award is recognizing Sharon Blady. I'm sure you recognize the name. Sharon is being honored this evening for being a strong proponent of supporting individuals with mental health challenges. She's the founder of Speak Up and a former Minister of Health for the province of Manitoba. She was the NDP MLA for Kirkfield Park in Winnipeg, and prior to her time in office, she also taught in nursing, in social work, and Native Studies at the University of Manitoba. She's a very well-rounded person. She's passionate about using her lived experience of mood disorders as part of a vision for growing peer support for increased mental health and well-being. Sharon has dealt with mental health issues throughout her life. She's a suicide survivor, a published author, an entrepreneur, and a public speaker. So congratulations, Sharon. Please come forward to accept your award, and then Sharon will give a keynote address.
Thank you very much. I have to say that this is a wonderful surprise, and when I was contacted about this, I have to admit my jaw hit the ground. So I want to thank the Catholic Foundation of Manitoba for over 50 years of supporting the community. Your grassroots support makes a huge difference in the lives of so many, and I want to thank those who are supporting this dinner tonight, whether it's in person or online, and I'd like to say a special thank you and hello to my friends and family who are joining online locally, and to those out of town. Yay, Ottawa. The support that everyone involved is providing to this event and for this year's theme of mental health is obviously close to my heart, and it's also very significant and much needed, because for as much progress as we have made over the years, there is still so much work to be done, and to do these things that we want to do, where we want to create a world where stigma no longer adds additional burden to what diagnoses already challenge us with. And in celebrating the work and service of Sarah Riel and Artbeat Studio, I am very grateful to be recognized alongside two organizations that I hold in such high esteem, and that I have to say I had the privilege and the pleasure of working with in my time in office as an MLA and as a cabinet minister. And I have to say tonight kind of feels like a bit of a reunion, a long overdue one, and it's so wonderful. So again, thank you to the foundation for creating that opportunity. The work and the mission of both organizations embody values and perspectives that truly support those of us with lived experience. They provide places where we are met with what I consider the three pillars of well-being: non-judgment, acceptance, and engagement. Now, whether it's through Sarah Riel's peer support programming, or the respite, employment, and housing supports, or Artbeat's many artists empowering resources, exhibitions, their open houses, which provide creative opportunities for self-exploration and healing. Either way, both put the person with lived experience at the center of their programming and their values, and they meet those they serve with non-judgment. They know that we did not choose our diagnosis, our experience, or our bad days. Acceptance. They meet people where they are every day, knowing that that can change from day to day. And they practice engagement. They engage with us in a way that is meaningful to us. And they work with us without shoulding on us. And I'll talk about that more. Because for all of the clinical tools that exist, all the resources, all the platforms that exist for those of us with lived experience, none of them have any really true value, meaning, transformative power without these three concepts as their foundation and used in their delivery. And I've been asked to share tonight, why these three concepts are so central to, well, first of all, the lives of those of us with lived experience, and what it means to understand them from our perspective, and how they shape my own work and the work of others in terms of educating and empowering others about the value and the gifts that those of us with lived experience bring to the world, and whether we bring them to school, to businesses, to community and faith organizations, or to political office. and how these three concepts embody the values that I recall being taught in my earliest days of Sunday school catechism and lessons about how Christ modeled for us how best to love our neighbor, especially the neighbor in crisis experiencing marginalization and stigmatization. And you might say, well, these three terms are all pretty familiar, so what really needs to be explored here? And I'd say, well, actually, I think it's that very familiarity that kind of does us in. And it's because we tend to, as humans, often shortcut things. So for example, if we think about non-judgment, the idea that we need to know and recognize that we did not choose our diagnosis, we did not choose our experience, and again, we don't choose our bad days. That means acknowledging and letting go of our stigmatizing baggage around mental health and the impact it has on the lives and the identity of those of us with lived experience. And we all carry it due to the society that we are part of. Not just those around us, but those of us with lived experience also internalize these beliefs. And it can be as hard, and I would even say harder for us than it is for others to see ourselves with non-judgment. Sadly, we often become our own worst critics, and we find it easier to give others compassion, empathy, and support than it is to offer it to ourselves and offer ourselves that same grace and non-judgment. So collectively and individually, we must remind ourselves that experiences and behaviors labeled as diagnoses are things we did not choose. We were born with them, or they were inflicted upon us through experiences beyond our control. So if we are born this way and created in God's image, then this is about the diversity of human experience, not about something being wrong with us. We are just experiencing some of the most painful aspects of human experience through no fault or choice of our own. If we can be empathetic to the challenges faced by the person born diabetic, why do most struggle to do the same for the person born with a bipolar condition? Sadly, it's judgment grounded in our perceptions of inconvenience to ourselves and the failure to recognize that what we externally perceive as choices by the person with lived experience, they are not made as freely, easily, or under the power and circumstances that we take for granted in our own decision-making. Many mental health diagnoses are the brain's way of protecting the individual through traumatic life experiences. But what gets you through one aspect of life then sets you up for more challenges going forward. So when someone is hit by a car and ends up hospitalized, how likely are we to tell them to get over it? Not very. But then how often do we expect folks to shake off depression or suicidality? It's far too often, and it's because it makes us uncomfortable, and that feeling is laden with judgment based on prioritizing our comfort over the pain and suffering of another. And I'm not asking that anyone dismiss their own discomfort or inconvenience, but please just put it in perspective. You're getting the tip of the iceberg compared to what's going on in our heads. I never had anyone complain that my cancer diagnosis was an inconvenience to them, nor were any of my treatment appointments, anything like that. But I have lost track of the number of times that my mental health diagnosis was judged by others as a bigger problem and inconvenience for them than it was for me. So see us the way Christ sees those facing stigma and challenges in his own interactions, with an open heart and mind, seeing the value and potential we possess and knowing we did not choose what we are going through any more than we choose our eye color or our date of birth. So if we did not choose this, then the next step is for us to be treated with acceptance, meaning meeting people where they are every day, and again, knowing that things can change from day to day. And like shaking off judgment, this is a lot tougher than we usually think, because it's a moving target. When I work with nurses and doctors, I remind them that while I may be standing in front of them and they see a successful professional and a former cabinet minister, there is nothing to say that the world, and or one of my diagnoses won't throw a curveball that has me in front of them tomorrow morning as one of their patients in crises. And that I ask that if that is the circumstance tomorrow morning, that they see me as the same person with the same value and worth, but not with the same expectations about where I am or what I'm capable of doing. Think about those diagrams we often use in different learning and leadership situations, and we talk about the way we want to grow and learn, and you get that really nice line going up the graph, and it's going at this beautiful angle of progress. And then the reality example that we usually put up right beside it, and it's that loops and knots backwards and all this mess of a tangle that's there beside it. Well, guess what? That can be our day-to-day sometimes. Now, that doesn't mean that we're hopeless, but that we're human. And as I've said before, whatever inconvenience you feel about the situation, and again, no one is denying it, we're just asking that it be put in perspective. It's the tip of the iceberg. In the roller coaster of our brain in crisis, you're pleasantly watching from the teacup ride. We're the person that was brought in on the ride designed for someone 6 inches taller, and we were just force-fed pizza, nachos, and 2 liters of pop before being strapped into the ride. We didn't choose this, and we are struggling just as much to accept this as our reality, and we're even less thrilled about it than you are. Also accept that this doesn't mean, like I said, that we are beyond hope or usefulness. In fact, the work that I do, I help people find the gifts, the superpowers that lived experience gives us. I use the analogy of superheroes in regards to acceptance because, like them, we didn't choose our powers. And we struggle with these powers knowing that they can overwhelm us. The difference is, superheroes are always seen for their gifts first. And then their challenges are met with non-judgment and acceptance. And we root for them when they face misunderstanding and stigma. That's all those of us with lived experience would like too. To have our gifts seen first, to be treated with non-judgment, acceptance, support, and engagement. We just want to be seen the same way. Acceptance by others also helps us with acceptance for ourselves too. And as I said, sometimes it's tougher for us to undo these biases. So please model the behavior of Christ, who surrounded himself with those who were stigmatized by society, and by seeing us as equal and worthy of love and acceptance. And finally, there is engagement. And that means interacting with us in a way that is meaningful to us and without shoulding on us. And that's where I want to sort of brag and share a little bit more about the work of Sarah Riel and Art Beat Studios, because they provide such stellar models to inspire and lead us. Their foundations in building communities of peers where lived experience is valued and central to our individual and collective success, whether that's supporting each other in recovery or in personal growth and creative exploration. They live and breathe this on a daily basis. Tools are given to folks the way they need them. Whether that's the role of art, whether that's through peer support, we are engaged with as peers and as equals, and our value is seen. And working with peers in any context, oh my gosh, it's someone that speaks our own language. It's our fellow superheroes. It's like you have a shorthand. Someone that may not share our exact diagnosis, but has spent some time in the same lousy neighborhood of our brains. Maybe they're living at the corner of anxiety and trauma, and you've spent time down the block at the PTSD, depression complex. Well, you're both familiar with the same dark alleys of the mind, and the ability to help others navigate these spaces is invaluable to both people's journeys. So in meeting us where we are, and needing to be engaged with in the ways that are meaningful to us, that can be where our greatest successes are found. And I believe that is the reason why both of these organizations do the valuable work that they do and have the results that they have, is they meet people where they're at and they engage with them in a way that is meaningful, profound, and frankly, life-altering. I use, again, superheroes because of my lifelong love of comics. I've always been a comic book girl, a nerd, a geek, whatever you want to call it. And so for me, using superheroes as a metaphor and a model came from that love and sharing that love and interest with my kids, so that when my own sons faced their own challenges with both mental health and neurodivergence diagnoses, superheroes were key. We were able to talk about things using different characters as examples. Because frankly, what kid wants their mom to come into the room and say, well, hold on, mom's just gonna go get her CBT worksheets here for you, and we're gonna tackle your anxiety, and no. No kid wants that. But if I can give him a superhero exercise that empowers him and is associated with a character that he loves, and it makes him feel good about who he is and his identity, that is a totally different impact. So this is how I engage, through fandom, through a love of things that I share with so many other folks, and that's what's so important. It's engaging with others through a shared language of pop culture. And I'm not asking that everyone become a comic book nerd like me, and you certainly, you don't have to be one to gain value from the kinds of programs and the perspective that I offer. All I ask is that people be open-minded to a perspective that has successfully engaged people in recovery and done so on their own terms. That's what engagement means, meeting us where we're at and speaking to us in our language about things and ideas and concepts in a way that resonates for us. In a sense, let us lead the conversation. And help is what we need, not what other people think we need. And that's not dismissing the work of the wonderful folks that support us. It's just about seeing things again from our perspective and knowing that each of us is different and how we're going to relate to things is going to be different. So find out how we click, how we operate, and meet us that way. And that engagement is really the final step that carries us even further. And that brings me to the word should. Should is a word that is best removed from all of our vocabularies. It is filled with guilt and shame, and if you find it as part of your vocabulary, explore why and what you really mean. Because if you want to tell me that you had a great experience with a particular medication or a particular treatment and that you think it may be helpful in my recovery, please say it that way. Don't tell me I should try it or I should do it. It's amazing how that small word carries more baggage and weight than most of us can ever imagine, and that it can very easily derail someone, feed their inner critic, and drag them back down a hole that you thought you were guiding them out of. And I guess the other part is that it really doesn't serve any of us well. And in terms of serving others, again, Christ met people where they were at, and he saw them with the compassion, empathy that they, as human beings, as part of the creation, were worthy of. But he also did it without shoulding on them. And that's something that, again, I think we can all aspire to. I'd like to thank the Foundation again for the opportunity to share these insights of lived experience and for taking the time to honor the work of those of us who are in the community supporting others with lived experience. And all that I ask is that each of you tonight and going forward, please greet us and everyone else that you meet with non-judgment, acceptance, and engagement in a way that is meaningful for us. And then we can look forward to a time where I think our collective mental health and well-being will be greatly improved, and that those of us with lived experience can go through life and our challenges without the extra burden that stigma puts on us. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for that wonderful testimonial. Shoulding. I've never heard that word before, but I'm going to retain it because it's an important one.